Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning and welcome to Tipp FM and Tipp today this Friday morning. Hope you're well wherever you are in the county or beyond. We've got a very action-packed show to bring you today. Leanne is by the phone lines and you can contact us here 083 311 3311 or 1800 938 007. I'm Stephen Gleeson in for Fran this week and I hope you stay tuned for the next 3 hours. We've got a very action-packed show today. Johnny Luby is on the way and we'll also hear from Deputy Alan Kelly who will join us live from our Nenagh Studio, and this week marks Children's Hospice Week. And we'll ask again, is cash still king? And that conversation continues on. Our Friday panel will unpack the hot topics of the week a little later on, and there is going to be a lot happening on the show today. Just to bring you the headlines, the Irish Times run with Justice and Transport face cuts to offset overruns, and that's about transport facing a top level 1.4% levy to help offset 640 million overrun in education, and the levy plan generates a backlash amongst some ministers and department staff. And the Irish Independent runs with a photo then of those that were on the flotilla that was over in the Middle East. Anger over treatment of flotilla activists, says the Taoiseach. And Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said there is growing anger across Europe over the treatment of the global Summit flotilla citizens, including President Catherine Connolly's sister, Dr. Margaret Connolly, is pictured on the front of the paper getting off a plane with another activist on arrival in Istanbul airport following their deportation from Israel. So a lot happening in the news, and of course President Connolly is down in Clonmel today as well. So we have a lot to get through on today's show, but first off we're going to pay a very quick tribute to the great Liz Howard, who did so much for Tipperary Gaelic Games and so much for all involved in sport in Tipperary, and a very proud Gaelic Games lover, and so much for the Camogie Association. So we'll hear from Liz and then we'll go live to Johnny Luby.
Oh yes, they do, and they're right. I mean, they're looking for equality, and I think we have to be very careful equality, because sometimes if you go overboard in equality, people switch off to you. You've got to be diplomatic and strong at the same time. Get your message across. And you know, most counties, most hurling counties I can only talk about, are quite open, and you have to build up your relationships, because basically it's all about relationships at the end of the day. And that's what I found, that I had an into the GA, and they were fantastic. And even if they said no to me the first time, I'd pretend I didn't notice and I'd go back again. And as I say, I'd speak very highly of them. But the young women of today, they deserve more as well. Like in our day, you didn't ever think about expenses. It just wasn't a factor. Nobody had money. You just paid for whatever you got yourself. But I think the amalgamation with the GPA has been a positive, and I think Tom Parsons is very realistic. A little bit surprised that he said, oh, this is only going back 20 years. This actually was first mooted by Dr. Mick Loftus, and then, depending on the president of the day, it was either fashionable or put on the back burner. Joe McDonough probably was the next who was really fantastic, and he had such charisma as well, of course, that people came with him. Then we had a couple of presidents who weren't pro Camogie, and they dismantled the agreement between the senior Camogie player and the under 21, which was very disappointing. And also we had offices in Croke Park, as had the ladies' football, and we were evicted there, which was disappointing, but we promised that we'll get back there. Yeah, I think amalgamation has to take part, but I think it's going to take a huge mindset on the part of all three organisations. Attitudes have to change, my attitude has changed over the years. I wasn't always for it, but when you look at it logically and when you talk to more people and when you see what the young women want, they want it. And there is back to the players. But there will have to be a huge mindset, and there'll have to be very, very, wise people sitting down, because the devil will be in the detail, as they say. But I'm positive.
May she rest in peace. Liz Howard there. Johnny Luby joins me in studio. Liz was a great Tipperary starlet over the years, Johnny, and a trailblazer for the Camogie Association, and everyone involved in Tipperary GAA has passed on their sympathy as well.
That's right, Steve. Sympathies to the Howard family and their relatives, neighbours and friends on the death of Liz Howard. A wonderful spokeslady, well able to get her points across, and she was very much involved as such with Tipperary GAA, but I think her dad played hurling with Limerick, Gareth Howard. And of course she played Camogie in Clare and in Dublin, outside of playing with the Blue and Gold of Tipperary. She was what would one say, as I said, a tremendous spokesperson, and Camogie is certainly far better off now with all the things that Liz has brought to the top table. As I said, she'll be missed, there's no question about it. I met her on numerous occasions at the Galway races, and indeed one day in Thurles back a good few years ago, my brother-in-law Jim Ryan Sandy, who's dead now, the Lord Messlin, was chairman of the West Board, and seemingly at half time, like, you could go in for tea and sandwiches and all of that. It was one of the first times I met her, you see, and I was sitting in Jim's seat in the alcohol, the VIP section in Thurles, and she did.
How did they let you in, Johnny?
I don't know. Sandy had gone out to the toilet, and she just said, James, that was me. She obviously didn't know. Sandy, would you like a cup of tea and a sandwich? I said, I'd love it, yeah, thanks very much. I'm coming home in the car. Sandy says, Jess, I thought we were supposed to get tea and sandwich. I said, I got him. So one of the only times I've ever pulled a stroke on Jim, but Liz Howard then was part of the Sunday game in the early years. I didn't realise that until last night. I saw it on television, and she was well able to articulate situations and that, and our thoughts are with the family.
Fair play. May she rest in peace, Liz Howard. And Johnny, she was PRO of Tipp GAA for over 20 years, and we were watching Tipp GAA in action last weekend. They didn't perform against Clare.
Yeah, that was it. It just didn't perform on the day. Liam Cale was disappointed with the performance. Sometimes if you're beaten but you get a performance, that's what it's all about. But we just didn't get, for one reason or another. I certainly wouldn't be the one to knock Tipperary hurling. I mean, they won us in All-Ireland last year against the odds, and they performed brilliantly in many of the matches last year. But I suppose if one looks at Clare the year before, when they were beaten in the All-Ireland, when they won the All-Ireland against Cork last year, they weren't one of the three teams then to come out of Munster.
Yeah.
So Brian Lohan and his lads involved with him, they were more than disappointed. He just said the day that that Tipperary beat Clare below in Innis, and it was quite a hard game. He said, look, not making excuses, we were short one or two players and things like that, but he finished up by saying Tipperary are actually quite good. Now, it was on the Irish Examiner, and I just said to myself, Jesus, there must be something in this Tipperary team that Brian Lohan is after seeing. Like, they were well able to dog it out below in Innis, which can be a tough situation, But just disappointing for the lads, because they have trained hard, and that all the panel of 30 odd players or whatever is there, they have given their utmost, they've sweated blood and tears. They're going up and down hills and valleys and dales and every place else, and in training then 2 or 3 nights a week, and you may be sure that they weren't just playing tap ball. That it was training, but for one reason or another it just didn't happen, and you just get on with it, and that's it.
And the Miners had a good win. They, brought silverware to the county.
They did, and that's absolutely fantastic. You know, that they're gone into an All-Ireland semi-final or quarter-final, whatever it is. Young Collins from bench is the captain and playing quite well at cornerback. And of course, our own man in Golden, James Finn, is centre-back. He went to school in Golden. His dad is from Kerry, but married. His grandmother would be one of the Ryan Hurleys from Knockavilla Doneski, big into the hurling, and that. So it was a fantastic result. And our under-20s, we say, got to the Munster final again against Clare. But as Liam Cahill said, we have a tremendous underage structure coming through. It's well got, but we need them to come a step further. You know, you can have brilliant under-20 players and brilliant minors, but you need them to just step up, take that extra step up. Having won 4 Harty Cups in a row in the county, there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. You know, so hopefully another year I'm delighted that Liam is there for another year. Didn't because I know him fairly well. I'd call him, like himself, we'd call a spade, and he does call a spade. You know, he's the one guy. You know, our Delby says in Fools and Horses, Rodney, he says, call a spade a shovel. Yeah. But overall, but for the Camogie team last Sunday, it was brilliant for James Heffernan and the people involved with him to beat Waterford. You know, they had got to an All-Ireland final, but the Tipperary ladies, and I was going to use the word dogged it out, they showed skill and determination and got wonderful scores. Great team, yeah. Oh, bloody great, you know, and I suppose they're drawn in as such in my book in the group of death in the All-Ireland. I think it is with Waterford again and Galway and Cork, like 3 top-class teams. Yeah, very difficult group. Oh, very difficult, you know. But look, they have won their Munster medal, and that you may be sure James will leave no stone unturned to win what they can as well, you know. And our footballers then are out this weekend. The very best of luck to them. They travel up north. That's the hard luck of having to travel up to Sligo the first day and up north then to Antrim to take on Antrim. Not an easy draw. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it now. I'm going up for commentary on Sunday. Oh yeah, it's a good trip, road trip. No, on Tipp FM, you'll probably go up on Friday night and dog it out about in Matchville Park, you know. But, Europa Hotel, is that the one in Belfast? Yeah, that's right, yeah. But look, hey, they have wonderful footballers in Tipperary. Like, at times they do play fantastic football. You know, and it's just to keep it up, and like this is another learning process as well, because they are coming, there's no question about it. It'll take them a year or two again, you know, but the best of luck to them when they go up north on Sunday. And hurlers then the same day against Limerick, dead rubber game now though. Well, the GA Go made sure of that, didn't they? Because they're not showing it. They're not showing it. Imagine they're not showing it in this day and age. It's scandalous, and nothing short of scandalous. Seemingly RTE offered the GA the Tipp Clare game last Sunday, and they wouldn't take it for whatever reason, because they wanted lads to pay for the GA Go. So they had 32 or 3,000 in Tullis last Sunday, and they wanted another maybe 100,000 paying the GA Go to go and watch it on GA Go. But I think that we're going the wrong way. That's my opinion. It should be free to air. It's a game of hurling, and that. And I don't know, had we any hurling on last weekend on RTE? They're really, Babs Keaton would say that they're going about promoting hurling the right way. And that's the way it is, you know. Hurling is a tremendous game, and that. And I don't know, have we any match in the next week on RTE? We have big matches in Leinster, Kilkenny. Play Dublin, who are actually going well. Massive game. Kilkenny, you know, could be knocked out if Offaly win their games and Kilkenny don't beat Dublin. Yeah, and Kilkenny will find it hard to beat Dublin. Dublin are there or thereabouts. I have the amazing thing about it is that few bob couldn't make or break anybody on Dublin at 10-1 to win the Leinster title. All right, yeah, good bet. So, yeah, well, I just thought that Leinster. See, when you see Kilkenny and Galway above in Salt Hill, and they draw in 7,000 people. Geez, there were 7,000 people in Cashel watching Golden and the Kickens in the county intermediate final. You know, right. And here's Kilkenny going up to Galway and drew something around 7,000. Munster hurling is a bonanza for the GA. It is worth them 10 million. 10 bloody million. You know, and we can't show it on television, only for Tipp FM. we wouldn't have a comment or anything else. And their boys are fantastic, you know, they breathe a bit of life into it and that. And at times they give you more hope. You're listening to Paul Carroll, and then when he has the ball 13 yards out in front of goal, a shot, next thing is my bloody mobile goes off. Had to answer it. There's Nellie O'Connor ringing about the bloody festival in gold.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the way it is.
And Johnny, the Heineken Cup final is on this weekend, and there's a bit of Tipperary involvement this weekend in the rugby.
That's right, yeah. Ulster play tonight. That'll be a big game. It's the call it the Talton Cup, for the want of a better name, and they're in the final. That they'll be very hard to beat. Young Flannery from Bench started off above in Kilfeacle under 7, 8, 10 and 12 and 13, and then went to Rockwell College. He's on the panel tonight. And then of course you have young Osborne from Kildare, but parents were from, one of the parents was, the mother was a Tullis lady, and of course the grandfather was the great Bill Fogarty. He was head man in Ballydial for years, so we know where to go looking for a ticket now for matches and things like that. Billy the Ship would be another one of them.
What a name, Billy the Ship. He'd love to be doing commentary with Billy the Ship playing.
Yeah, I could picture a man tomorrow, please God, when he's playing for Leinster, and Osborne has the ball. He's 14 yards, he drives forward and he passes the ball out to Billy the Ship. Yeah, they were the days, yeah.
It's a huge weekend for sport then. If you look at it, you have all these games on, and also the Greyhounds, and the stakes final is on this weekend too.
That's right, Jeff, Stevie. It is huge weekend in Clonmel Greyhound Stadium on Sunday night. They have the final of the Produce Stakes. In total, it is probably worth about 40 grand. There's many Tipperary dogs in the final. I haven't the cards in front of me now, but they're well represented there, and they will they have 7 or 8, maybe 10 other finals on the night, and so they'll definitely have a huge crowd there. At probably around 6 o'clock or 6:30 is the first races. But I remember one time there, but all sports were the same, when there was maybe 10 or 12,000 at the Clonmel Produce Stakes. It's for greyhounds born in the year 2024,
right.
And that, so it is probably the mini derbies out there, and these greyhounds then they certainly go on to make huge names for themselves, you know. And Clonmel is a great stadium down here because they do a lot of charities, and like Tullis as well do a lot for charity. Even you can see the Tipperary GA Dog Night in Tullis every year. Draws a huge crowd, and the players go, and the youngsters get a chance to meet their heroes and that. And they're available 24/7 to do charities and that, whatever you're doing, you know, and that. So,
and when the dogs are on, that's drawing a crowd. There's a big event as well coming up in Rose Green this weekend.
That's right, yeah. They have the raceway on at 1 o'clock. They have 6 categories out there, and I don't know, your car isn't hectic at the moment. Would it even get into any one of the 6? But 1 o'clock on Sunday, I'm hoping to get over there. Again, a wonderful crowd as well to raise a few pound. They gave me a few pound there last year on a phone call from when I was on Tipp FM here talking to Fran. Somebody rang in there and said that there was €500 for Skull Cormac to go over and collect it, you know. And
oh, fantastic!
I was delighted going in with the money and that into Skull Cormac. And of course, mentioning Skull Cormac, then of course they had a fantastic fundraiser there towards the end of last year or this year.
Oh, that was great. I met you inside there that day
right,
at the presentation. I was doing a piece here with Fran on it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, I mean, like, they were talking about even 80, just say doing 80,000, and Lorraine Lowry, she's the head girl in there, she rolled her eyes up to heaven. She says, where are they getting a figure like that? And the next thing is, it went up to 170 or 80,000. It was absolutely fantastic. Cashel Rugby Club had a big part to play in as well, because they gave their facilities for a great day of bopping for our buses and that, and they had a sports day there for the youngsters that go to Skull Cormac, so it was absolutely fantastic.
4 buses that time, Johnny, was it?
That's, yeah, well, it could have been, yeah, it could have been, they were going to buy, I think it's probably 5 buses, maybe 6.
All right.
Yeah, but the big ones were the ones with the lift that youngsters would get a chance of, because the likes of the lads that work in there, they find it hard to lift the wheelchairs and that up into the buses, which doesn't appear right in this day and age. So now they got the lifts and they just press a button, and they went off for a drive with him the first day. Youngsters that had never been on a bus, there was probably 4 or 5 of them, out to the horse and jockey, and turned out there and came back in, and they kept talking about it for months afterwards. So something like that it's a fantastic achievement, you know.
Oh, it's brilliant. That was a great day we had up there at the presentation for that, and when the buses were handed over. A lot on as well in your own neck of the woods, and big festival coming up in the horizon in Golden.
Yeah, it's gone on a long time now, and thanks to the wonderful support of people out there from all the other parishes around that come and support us. On Wednesday night, it's a start off. They go for a family walk up by, I presume, Mental Hill. They'll be passing Nellie O'Connor, and she'll have tea and sandwiches and buns out and scones and the whole lot.
Fair play to Nellie.
And did you come across Nellie? She's a great girl. And that's Wednesday evening then, and they have the kiddies disco, and on Thursday evening then they have the drive-in bingo. Nellie is the organiser there, and our local guard, Mr. Nugent, would be there as well to see it on the hurling field. So once the ground is dry, it's a fantastic setup there. And then on Friday evening then they have the dog show, which is brilliant again, because it's like Donny Nealon's one above in Burgess to Hara, where they go into Barry's field. It's gone on for years. Well, Golden, they'll all be in the GA club on Friday evening. And then of course we have a huge timber auction as well by Michael Fitzgerald, the former county councillor, as the auctioneer on the night. And
they're always great money spinners, aren't they?
They are, yeah, but there's a lot of hard work goes into it, you know. Jim Connell and Michael Connell Bonky, and they'd have been one of them would be the father of Shane O'Connell that played the football with
Golden. Cornerback there, fullback.
And bloody
great player.
Oh, great player. And Jim then would be his uncle, and Jim is probably the leader of the timber, which isn't an easy job, you know. It's all okay to see it in trailers, but the amount of sweat and blood and tears and the whole lot that they do getting it that far. And of course then they have to get a loan of 60 or 70 trailers, and you have to write fellas' names on them, and if you buy the timber then we'll just say you're living above it. They'd be hoping that you weren't living above in the asshole or Tipperary in Upper Church Drumbain. They would have to bring the trailer back up to you. They'd be hoping you'll come down and buy the trailer load, and you have your own trailer. That would be a lovely idea, but that don't happen.
So they drive around Ireland with it.
Yeah, so they have then on Saturday this song or bingo music or something, and that so it is probably look. They'll get crowds in Golden, like it is brilliant for the locals there, whether it is Sir Owen's or the Bridge House or Tooheys. It's marvellous for them to have a bit of life around the place, so hopefully it goes well for them and the weather stays fine.
It'll be busy. I was in Thurles yesterday, and I heard you were knocking around the school there, and you were in at a big graduation.
That's right, yeah. It was a fantastic day there. I had to go over because I have the eldest grandson, Jack Heffernan, in Clonowalty. He was, I was going to say getting confirmed, but that's not the word. He was getting his graduation paper and that, and it was a marvellous day. It went on for roughly an hour and a half with a beautiful priest of great with youngsters, Father Walton I think it was, and then you had the principal, Mr. O'Donnell, and Mr. Carroll. They were saying a few words, and the youngsters, Tiernan and Ryan and them, they just spring to mind because they're into the hurling and that kind of thing. And hey, it was a great day, and they went across into the hallway for tea and sandwiches and scones and that. So it was a wonderful day for them, maybe 70 odd youngsters, and to wish them the very best of luck and that. And look, there's always a job out there for everybody. You can just do your best in the leaving cert. I mean, I'm probably the only one in Ireland who got on well the first time in 72, and I was born in July, so then July was the cut-off point for the Harty Cup, and then the superior Brother Malone, he was big into the hurling. He asked me would I come back and make me captain for the Harty Cup.
Really?
Yeah.
When you were heading for a sixth year? Like?
Yeah, well I was after doing the leaving cert.
Oh,
so
right.
would I come back and repeat? I said I probably will. I'd make captain. I knew we had a decent team with Pa Fitzell and John Grogan. I was going to be captain and the whole lot. But anyway, we got to the Harty Cup final but got hammered. But into the bargain, I'm the only one that failed the leaving cert the second time, and I blame it on the bloody Harty Cup. But they were great days, you know, and the lads will all look, they made great friends then in there over 6 years, you know. And the priest said, like, Father Walton, he said how time passes by so quickly.
This in Thurles CBS.
In Thurles CBS, you know, the thing that how time passes by so quickly, and that.
True.
And I said to the son-in-law, Michael, his young fellow was getting thing, I said, it does. time goes quickly. I said, except when you're making bloody repayments. I said, it seems to be a never-ending thing. But hey, look, 'tis wonderful. And I just, talking about the Golden Kilfeacle Festival starting on Wednesday night. Well, the Coronas play in Clonoulty in the Dillon Quirk grounds on Saturday, June the 27th. Tickets are going, Stevie, like hot buns. Because I think that, is there a Holy in the Hills this year, do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's going ahead this year now, is the latest I've
Yeah,
heard.
I used to love going up there.
I need confirmation on that.
Yeah, I used to love going up there, and that was a fantastic day, you know, for the call to the local. I mean, I did say to Gerd one day above it, I think I was getting in the small car into a small space, and I got out anyway, and I took off the safety belt. But I put it on when I saw him and took it off then. I said, Gerd, am I okay to park here? You are, Johnny? He said, yeah, you are. I said, where's the best place here for a pint? He said, Golden. Just like that. So he was marking my car. So I went on to 0-0 in Ollie Ryan's and Pairs and Canans immediately. But they were great days. The other evening when I was coming back, I don't know where we were coming back from. We called into the Horse and Hound in Duella.
Oh, a lovely pub.
Oh, tops. Oh, geez, like, hey, they're very intelligent in there. And the more drink they get, the more intelligent they are. But there was a husband and wife there. They were shouting for Aston Villa.
Aston Villa, yeah, European Cup final.
Yeah, it was very hard to get it. I was delighted to meet an Aston Villa supporter because there are not too many around. They're normally Liverpool or Man United or City or Arsenal or whatever.
100%.
But, you know, Chelsea, there's a few of them there around from Chelsea. And of course, the likes of Billy Tuhin Golden, they're Leeds United for a long. I used to be Leeds United until they went back down into the first or second division.
Oh, you left them then, did you?
I left them then immediately. But so like it was wonderful to see Aston Villa win. And mentioning the Horse and Hound in Duella Swans, they're known in the soccer. They won was it the Peter O'Reilly Cup, and they're in another final as well, which for a small little area, it's absolutely fantastic to see them going so well. And lads join for the crack and everything else. Like all the pubs, they're saying, would I say on the radio, that they'd like if the government came down with some bit of VAT off the price of a bloody pint.
Right.
I mean, like, all them things are gone dear now. To think that cigarettes are gone to 1970, almost €20. If the Portuguese government are selling the same cigarettes for a fiver, and they are happy with the tax they have out of a fiver. So the Irish, that's what's wrong with the Irish government. They're not able to handle all the money that they're getting in.
Yeah, and then we're seeing, you know, the issues there that we've been talking about during the week as well, and
Irish water
being misspent.
Irish water, Irish rail. Mother of God above tonight, what's going on is unbelievable. Micheál Martin has gone over to meet the Pope in Rome. He's going to talk about the Christians being taxed on the West Bank. What about the Irish people, Christians here, and we paying tax more than that? But anyway, that's only my thing. But yeah, we called into the Dove Hill in Kilsheelan. You know that place? They're coming back the other day.
Oh, they do a lovely carvery in there.
That's
yeah.
right. I hadn't time for the carvery, but my missus, I was collecting on Waterford, and that. So we called into the Dove Hill, and that's so I opened the door for her. Being a perfect gentleman after 46 years of marriage, I said I better do something right. But anyway, I opened the door for her, and next thing was two ladies were getting out of a car again, and I held the door, and it took them about a minute to get over, and one woman was halfway over when she discovered she left her handbag inside, so she ran back to the car, but I held the door open for the first one, and the second one then was running. I put up my hand, I said, stop, do you realise? I said, I'm getting paid here. I says, to open the door for you. That's all I said. She says, are you the man on the radio? I said, yeah, that's me. She said, I said, don't mind listening. I said, just turn it off when I'm on. But what else have I to say? Now, I want to know, Stevie, because you're the head man now here. When Fran is on a few days vacation, am I a presenter or a producer or a listener or a contributor or a complete clown? I don't know, but anyway, it's amazing what's going on with RT. It's unbelievable. You know, I mean, they're up in front of the chairman of the Alan Kelly.
Practice Committee.
Yeah.
We've Alan Kelly on next.
Well,
actually,
a brilliant guy to interrogate and find out, but should the minister not be there as well? Should he not know what's going on, this Patrick O'Donoghue? I think it's an absolute scandal. You know what? That your man, I did friends started laughing the last day when I said this fella they were talking about. I said he's away with the birds. What do you call him? Moon, no. Anyway.
You're thinking of Derek Mooney.
Derek Mooney. Mother of God,
the nature programme, yeah.
Jesus,
he was in as a producer but he was presenting as well, which was a different pay grade.
Oh, Jesus. Hey,
crazy,
it's like somebody went into the parish priest one time in Golden back in the 50s, and he just said something like, he said, I really wasn't faithful to the wife. The priest said, I don't believe this. He said, and I was with another one as well. And he said, can I believe you? He said, what's going on? And there was a couple of people behind. That time they were all going to confession every bloody week. And they were only all saying the same thing, morning, noon and night. I mean, when did you go to confession last, Stevie?
God, I have to think about that one, Johnny, now.
Says you asked me an easier question. But that's what the priest said, can I believe you? And the other two people, they were waiting. They thought this fellow was getting an awful interrogation. So they, I was going to say they booked off, they left the church. I said booked, now in case somebody would pull me up over bad language. But they went away and that. So it's like RTE. Can you believe what's going on? Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'd say we're going to hear more about that. We had caller on during the week asking, should RTE move to the Midlands? What do you think, Johnny? Would it be more central and people from all over to be there in the Midlands?
Yeah, but I don't know, the Midlands be able to cope, or they don't want the pressure of that on top of them. And many's working in RTE, and they all getting expenses to come up and down to the Midlands. Now, I know they're getting it, but most of them are based in Dublin, I would hope. But look, what's going on, Stevie? It is unbelievable. It's unreal when you stop and think. There was even a girl on there yesterday. Now I saw a small bit of it. That she said she worked with RTE and she got hounded. She wasn't getting the proper salary and the whole lot, And anyway, Alan Kelly knows about all of that. So.
Well, we'll hear from him shortly as well. Johnny, something else has been coming up during the week here about cash at matches. The West Board, have decided now that they have to make this decision from Croke Park, where they can't take cash going in at the gate anymore. It has to be tap and go with a bank card or one of the online banks that you use your phone for. No more cash, and it seems to be the way of the world at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'll be bet there, because my phone is 40 years old, so I've no hope. What hope have I? Bob hope and no hope of getting into a match. Bare I kind of use some bit of influence and that kind of thing. But it's amazing, like the tap and go, unbelievable. I mean, there was a fella came into Sir Roland's one night there for a pint, and he said, is there any tapping here? I said, hold on 1 second. I said, there is. I said, Jimmy down there is tapping Mary. I said, Alex is tapping Noreen. I said, there's every kind of tapping going on here. Your man said, not that kind of tapping, he said. But anyway, mentioning that, heartiest congratulations to, I was going to say Aston Villa, Peak Villa. They just pip St. Michael's on the post. St. Michael's, I think, from what I gather. There was a huge crowd there. And St. Michael's, I think, were leading 1-0, and then
Tower Grounds, Turles.
And then Peak Villa had to draw or win. But St. Michael's had to. A draw was no good to them, I think, which it wasn't really. But look, St. Michael's are there or thereabouts every year. They're the Man United of junior soccer. Everybody wants to beat them, and they're a great team there for a long, long number of years, since they were founded back in 1947, I think it was, and that they've won almost every cup that's out there. And
Great teams there, and a lot of sport in Tipp at the moment. And Johnny, we mentioned Liz Howard at the start, and we're just finishing up, and a couple of tributes to pay as well.
That's right. Just to mention that there's many listening to the deaths on the local radios, Tipp FM, and that Donald Maloney died there in the last day or two. He was an ambulance driver with South Tipp Hospital, and our sincere sympathies to the Maloney family on the death of Donald. Maloney's is a great name in Paul Mucka, and our thoughts are with them at this time. I think just listening to Tipp FM again, that funeral is this morning in Cahir, and he'll be buried there in the local grounds. And then of course the O'Donnell family as well, they're from around Cahir as well. Our sympathies and thoughts are with them as well on sad times, and indeed many others out there as well. It is unbelievable, that week after week we have to sympathise with people, but look, our thoughts and sympathies are with many.
Very thoughtful, Johnny, and may they rest in peace. And Liz Howard as well. A message in here. God, Stephen, even Fran was never asked when he was last at confession.
Well, Fran would have me warned. Don't mention that word.
No cash at any match in Kilkenny as well. It says county or club, and that's from Mike. And thanks, Mike, for your kind words about presenting this week as well.
And he's Mike, a Kilkenny man.
He's in Kilkenny anyway.
Yeah, could be a Tipp man down there, but anyway, Kilkenny play the big one, Dublin. That's a huge one, and that's on a Sunday. I think it's a Sunday anyway. It is.
Oh, great matches on the horizon, Johnny. Thanks again as always.
Stevie, thanks very much. Yes, it's 9:40, right?
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
You're very welcome back to Tip Today. Another message in there. Recently I had the pleasure of meeting Johnny's brother Jimmy at Tipperary University Hospital. We had good chats and laughs while there. Wishing Jimmy all the best. A lovely gentleman he is. And that's another one just in there now as well. Well, right now we're going to switch topics, and I'm delighted to be joined now from our Nenagh Studio by Deputy Alan Kelly. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning. And it's looking like it's going to be a lovely weekend and a lovely week ahead, so it brings some smiles to people's faces. Can I just, before we start, say I brought up Liz Howard in the Dáil yesterday just to acknowledge her passing. Condolences to Pat, Gary, Joanne. Liz certainly broke the glass ceiling when with all her work for the Camogie Association as president, and also, I suppose, for Tipperary for many, many generations. You think of people who love their county. Well, Liz Howard loved Tipperary. A very formidable, and I mean formidable lady. I said that in the Dáil yesterday briefly. And, her legacy will live on because of the work she did she was a primary mover when it came to promoting Camogie, and the way in which she did that was, will always live on. And she had a huge impact, and I often see her at matches. I meet her usually with her nephew Garrett or with one of the members of the family, and still going up until recently. So yes, they go over an Anam Dealish. I just also want to mention Vincent Kine. He, for people around Nenagh and surrounds, he was absolutely a colossus in Nenagh CBS as a teacher, a proud Galway man. He taught me, he taught my brother Declan. He had a huge impact on our lives in a positive way. And, he used to teach accountancy, and trust me when I say we all got good results because he made sure we did. But he was very well liked, raised a fantastic family. Very well known for outdoor pursuits, and just condolences to his wife Bridie and the extended family, and also to Kevin Madden and the family in Portjoe who went to school with me, who was buried yesterday. And finally, I just want to mention, because I can't go without mentioning, and sorry for going on, but Laura Kindy, who died tragically recently. And I'll never forget Laura's funeral, the love that was there for her. From her father John, her mum Annette, and her twin sister Aisling, and the Kennedy and Connors families, because it was a tragedy that touched the hearts of everybody around here. And what a fantastic girl. And I just wanted to mention her this morning because I haven't been on since. I'll never forget her funeral. Thinking of her family and thinking of her sister and her parents and the wider family. And I know everybody around here is still thinking of them all as well.
Nice words. May they all rest in peace, and well put, Alan, their relation to them. You've had a very busy week. Joint Committee on Arts, Media, Communications, Culture and Sport. We're discussing RTE. You were chairing the meeting, and a lot came out of that, I suppose, and Kevin Backhurst answering questions for you, Alan, this week.
Yeah, it was a long week with RT and many other issues, but ultimately here it just goes to show that, this whole issue of top 10 presenters pay and all of that is just a load of rubbish. I mean, because there's so many different ways in which people are being paid, so there isn't really any transparency as regard it when you have outside companies that are either owned by some presenters or paying some presenters on top of their pay. So, and it could be other people as well. So it just goes to show that was, it's a waste of time. So you might as well either do it properly or don't do it at all. And also in relation to, how people are being classified, whether they are presenters, reporters, researchers, all producers. It's a complete mess. There's no parity. It's not fair. And furthermore, you have the issue of Sean Rocks, which I raised, and my colleague Marie Sherlock also raised previously. And, he passed away suddenly, and, his partner and kids were left in a scenario where he had been misclassified for 16 years. And that has a consequence then from a pay point of view, from a pension point of view. So all of that and range of other issues just goes to show that, there's still huge issues there as regards the funding of RT and as regards how people are being treated. And I believe in RT, I believe in public service broadcasting, but, these issues do have to be sorted out. And I think we will be writing to the chair of RT to ensure that they are sorted out.
And when can we see some sort of a positive news story relating to RTE where there will be change? How long are all these changes going to take, Alan?
I think they're going to take some time because it's a mess. There's a lot of historical issues there, and there has been some really positive things done, but I can tell you straight out, the amount of people from RTE who were in touch with me in the last week has been phenomenal. I mean, it's a who's who from every level of the organisation. And the morale is on the floor. So Kevin Backhurst and his team really need to get to grips with this. I think there needs to be a benchmarking of all roles inside there. I think they need to sort out the redundancy issue. I think they need to sort out how they are dealing with outsourcing. I think the outsourcing issue is becoming a big problem because I'm not sure it's the way to go, to be honest with you. In fact, I'm sure it's not the way to go. I think it causes other issues. How payments are done, issues in relation to people who were on bogus contracts or contracts that certainly they weren't being treated properly. And a range of other, and the overall funding issue as well, which obviously the taxpayer is supplementing RT as well. So from a confidence point of view, they need to get cracking, because I welcome the fact they're being put in front of the Public Accounts Committee. I welcome that decision by the government, by the Minister O'Donovan. But, time now needs to move fairly quick as regards sorting out these issues, because it just can't go on. Confidence is low and staff morale is on the floor.
Yeah, a lot to be worked out there. Closer to home, Alan, in Clonmore, €4 million manor with acres and fields that hasn't been used by the Garda College, and there's a push now to start using that land, so use it or lose it, I suppose.
Well, the Minister confirmed to me last week that they are not going to use it. So that land, which was purchased, I think, for $5.5 million over 2 decades ago, what are they going to do with it? It was meant to be for Garda training, for driving instruction, for firearms training, for a whole range of other... why did they buy it? And if they're not going to use it, are they going to sell it? I support the Garda College so much. There's some good news come to it in recent times, but there is a review going on in relation to Garda training. The review group has met 6 times, and I'm concerned. I don't want to see one iota of training that is already in Templemore moved, because obviously that would have an impact on the town and on the college, and the town is so dependent on it. So I'm concerned about what this review is going to say. It was in the programme for government it was stated that they were looking at this, they were looking at alternatives. Do I believe there'll be a second Garda College? Probably not, but I do have concerns that some of the training will be moved out of Templemore, where there's continuous training, continuous development, all of that. Anything that goes on in Templemore, I want to see it strengthened. I want to see it being based out of there, and I want to see it supported. They have land out the road to do a lot of this. Why aren't they using it? Why is this government not using land that they purchased to actually continue training, develop training. It baffles me because the Minister committed to me in a committee meeting that he would look at it, but now they've decided they're not going to use it. And like taxpayers' money bought this land, so what are they going to use it for now?
And what's there at the moment? Is it cattle on the land, or what's
it's rented out from time to time, I understand. But like, you know, are they going to sell it? Is it going to be used for something else? Does another state agency want to look at it? You know, need to make a decision. Two decades, like, it's not acceptable.
Yeah, and like this is an ongoing thing though. It's a legacy that seems to be a big thing in Ireland. Anything relating to public finances, it just gets pushed down the line. We see with RTE, we see with this.
Yeah, and like, you know, land was bought for prisons in the past as well. It was never used, as we know. But like, somebody has to make a decision. So I'm asking the government to make a decision. What are they going to use this for? And if they're not, are they going to sell it? Because just leaving it in abeyance isn't acceptable. I believe it would be a great location for guarded training as regards driving, and we need a lot more guarded driving training because pursuit training is necessary. Firearms training, all of those need a lot of land. They need a lot of space. So why it can't be developed for that, I've no idea. That's the reason it was purchased, and there was going to be other issues put in there. I believe there was going to be a station put in there for various different things as well. So if they're not going to do it, explain why they're not going to do it, and then decide, is another state agency going to use it, or is it just going to be sold?
Okay, a lot of questions to be answered there. Moving to the north of the county, Alan, the Shannon pipeline is in the news again this week. We've been discussing it here, a lot of feedback from the text machine here, and we've put them to Irish Water as well. You know, where do you see this going, and, you know, is this going to end up in another thing?
The government are driving on with this. I didn't hear your show yesterday because I was in the Dáil, but they're driving on with this, so this is another milestone. You know, we could be talking about this project in 15 years as regards it's still not being completed. I don't know where this is going to end up. I have a big issue with this from a spatial planning point of view. I think as a country, we need to plan our country a lot better as regards where we're putting our population. That's a major issue for me. I think there are environmental issues. I think there are planning issues. But, like, you know, why are we trying to continuously develop an eastern conurbation around Dublin where the people living there can't breathe? I mean, trying to get out of Dublin, into Dublin, traffic-wise, house prices, everything. So the decision-making around this is recently, you know, when, you know, commercial property in Dublin and all of that, there has been huge changes there because people are working from home and all of that. But look, it's the city is absolutely choking, and the conurbation around Kildare, Meath, Louth, all of that area, Wicklow, it's choking. So should we not be spatially planning for using the resources we have to encourage investment in other areas, bringing jobs to other areas, and ensuring that, you know, we put the infrastructure in there? And it's not fair on the people in Dublin either because they're choking up there. So why are we pushing more? That's my big issue here. But I believe the government are going to plough on with this. But I can see it being tied up for many different reasons, legal reasons and other reasons. And we'll have to see where the An-Bord-Pleanála decision comes. Yeah,
you'd wonder why Dublin doesn't build up higher like most modern cities across the world rather than out using more green space.
I think there is merit in what you're saying there up to a certain point. I mean, are we into massive big high-rise? No, we're not. But we could certainly be into medium-sized, developments that, you know, would cater for people. It's just, it's almost like the metro. It's almost like the children's hospital. You can actually, before it happens, see that this is going to get bogged down. And, you know, you can probably replay those words in years to come.
Yeah, it's feeling that the Shannon pipeline may end up like that unless things get moved along with it. We've a lot to cover here, and one of the big things, I suppose, this week, and it'll be on people's minds across the county, nursing home spaces, Alan. And you spoke about this in the Dáil as well, that a lot of people are getting older and some have dementia, and there's no suitable accommodation for them, and they're taking up space in acute hospitals as a result.
Yeah, I raised the case of a gentleman I know all my life. He's in a Midlands hospital, and I need trying to get him into a nursing home and working with the HSE, but it's very difficult. In fact, we haven't been able to do so. I'll be speaking to the HSE after I get off this interview. But I have loads of people in that scenario recently. Nursing home space for people, particularly with people with dementia, it's becoming increasingly difficult. We need dementia-friendly nursing care provision, nursing home provision in Ireland, and we need to plan for it. People are living longer. That's a great thing, but it means also dementia is, obviously more prevalent, and we need to plan for that. The percentages are there. It's showing up all the time. We are not, as a country, planning for having a demographically older country with more percentage-wise, more people having dementia. I know about this very directly. I can tell you I deal with it every single day of my life. I know about it, and people listening to me know why I know about it. But we're situations where people have been left stagnant in hospitals for months. It's not good for the taxpayer, because that's €2,000 a day inside an acute bed. It's not good for the person. It's not dignified, and people who've paid their taxes all their lives deserve to be treated with dignity in the proper care setting. So we need a plan for this. We also don't have enough. I mean, I'm fighting all the time for people in nursing homes, but I'm also fighting to get home care. And I've said this for years. Why we don't bring a registered employment agreement to pay people properly who provide home help hours, to pay people for their travel, to pay people for their expenses. Pay them properly and people will stay at home longer. By staying at home longer, they won't end up in nursing home. By staying in nursing, they won't end up in a hospital. It's like a ladder. It's better care for the people. It's better for the families. It's more dignified. But another thing, which isn't my biggest priority, but it's a fact. It's good for the taxpayer. The longer you keep people at home, they're not in a nursing home, which costs obviously significant money, and they're not then in an acute setting, which in a hospital, which costs way more money. It's like a ladder. So the longer we can keep people on the lowest step in the ladder, the better for them, better for the families, better for the taxpayer. I have no comprehension why this hasn't been done. Pay people properly. It's very tough work. Home help, home care is very tough work. Pay people properly, and you'll have more people doing it, and you'll keep people in their homes more often. But outside of that, from a dementia point of view, we really need to plan ahead. There isn't enough nursing care. There isn't enough nursing homes, and really, it's a crisis coming down our road, the road. I feel, and I can see it clearly myself.
Alan, we're out of time. Listen, many thanks for joining us this morning on Tipp Today.
Thank you.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
You're welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson, and today we're joined by Aidan O'Gorman, Executive Director of CRNI, which is the Community Resources Network Ireland, the all-Ireland representative body for community-based reuse, repair, recycling and waste prevention organisations. Aidan is speaking to us ahead of the first ever Reuse and Repair Week, which takes place from Saturday the 30th of May to June 6th. And you're very welcome to the studio, Aidan.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Delighted to be here.
Aidan, it's just for listeners, I suppose, here who may not know you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with CRNI?
Well, I've been appointed as Executive Director of CRNI a few months ago, and CRNI is a membership body for all the community-based organisations and social enterprises out there who are active in repair, reuse and recycling activities. So, as you know, Stephen, social enterprises are those businesses who seek to do good in community and in society, as well as trying to trade to make some money to fund their activities. And our members are trying to, even more than that, seeking to deliver on the triple bottom line, which is to save the planet, to do to provide services for people, and obviously to fund themselves through their trading activities. So within CRNI we have a variety of members right across the country who deliver on different services, many of them doing repair and reuse activities such as repairing old bicycles or trying to do clothes swaps or some second-hand initiatives. Yeah.
Great stuff. And Aidan, we hear a lot about this circular economy, but for many people it can sound a bit abstract. What's it all about?
Absolutely, and I suppose you become aware that there's a lot of jargon in this sector, and really none of us knew anything about circularity 10 years ago, but our parents and our grandparents definitely did, because circularity at its very core is just about trying to use less, to repair stuff rather than throwing it away, and to reuse. So to try to encourage people to consume less in their day-to-day lives. So when we talk about circularity, we're asking people that when they think about buying something new, that perhaps first take a thought or a decision that perhaps you might want to repair what you have or buy something second-hand. And there are shops and organisations and initiatives right across the country and in communities everywhere that endeavour to support people to do that. So circularity really is quite a simple concept, and it's something, as I said, in years gone by was first nature to people.
Yeah, so people did it without even realising before we had a word for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We had no choice back in older times.
So this week that we're looking at here now, it's the first ever National Reuse and Repair Week. What's the idea behind this?
Well, we're trying to promote the concept of reuse and repair. There is, again, a little bit of jargon, I think, called a waste hierarchy. So at the top of the hierarchy is to reduce your consumption, but next up is to encourage people to reuse or repair. Even before they might think the next step would be to recycle stuff. So we're looking to promote and encourage people during the week, which is running from the 30th of May to the 6th of June, to reuse and repair. And our member organisations across the country have a number of activities planned. So the week itself is an initiative that was originally designed by our colleagues in Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Resource Network, and it's supported financially by DAERA, which is the Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs in Northern Ireland. And they came to us and said we'd like to run this initiative on a shared island basis right across the entire island.
Brilliant.
So our members, and here in Tipperary it's been led by Circular Squared, which is a fabulous organisation in Irish Town here in Clonmel. And Circular Squared have a number of activities during the week. Next Saturday at 11:30 they're running a repair cafe in their offices in their premises in Irish Town. Then on the 4th that'll go from 11:30 in the morning till 1:30, and it's a repair cafe and toy library. So if you have
a toy library,
absolutely. So they have about 700 members of the library, and it's open to anyone in the locality to join. And the idea being that rather than buy toys that may be might only last for a short while if you have a small children, or as children grow out of them, that come in, borrow the toy in question, and then when they've had a good play with it, bring it back and swap it for something else.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, that's so good, because children probably grow out of using something and someone else can use it then.
Exactly, yeah, and they get to have an opportunity to play with all kinds of different toys. So there's a myriad of tractors and diggers and dolls and tea sets and all kinds of things in the library. In fact, it's been so successful, they have absolutely no shortage of toys there. They're at a stage now with the premises that they get offers of donations on a regular basis, and unfortunately they just don't have the capacity. But it's a real great facility for people with young children, and obviously a much cheaper and economical option as well. So we would encourage people to come down and see what Circular Squared are doing in their library next Saturday. And also on the 4th of June, they're running a bike repair club, and again an opportunity to come down and learn some bike repair skills, or to get some of your old bikes fixed up and back on the road again in time for the beautiful weather that we're expecting.
I actually have one of them that just needs fixing up and it hasn't been done. Yeah. So that's in Clonmel, the Circular Square in Clonmel, and there's also a meeting in Nenagh this weekend about a repair cafe is the idea.
Absolutely. Well, the North Tipp Development Company in Caroline there does great work in promoting social enterprise in North Tipperary, and they're looking to see if there's an interest from the people of Nenagh and surrounding areas in establishing their own repair cafe or toy library. So they're holding a meeting this Saturday at 11 a.m. in the Scouts Hall in Nenagh, and it's just an information meeting. Actually, some representatives, Mike and Tricia from Circular Squared in Clonmel, are going to go up and tell their story and how about they came about setting up their toy library and their repair cafe, and we'll see if there's some interest there, and if maybe there might be some people with that have repair skills skills or that want to try out repair, that are good with their hands. There might be some people that just want to participate and might want to have that opportunity to have a place where every so often you come and you might bring your old clothes or your small electrical goods or broken toys or whatever, and see if you can repair them and get a second life out of them. And again, it's a wonderful opportunity where the repair libraries they're great social activities, because people then tend to talk about the toys that maybe they got from their parents when they were younger that they now want to give to their children, and so on. So look, toy libraries, libraries of things, bike repair, these are all, I suppose, the core activities that CRNI does with its members. And we're very lucky that the session on Saturday is funded by one of our founder members, which is the Rediscovery Centre. So if you've ever been to Ballymun, and I'm sure you do as you're in and out to Croke Park regularly, there's just as you're driving out there you can see the old smokestacks from the community central heating that's in Ballymun. There's a Rediscovery Centre, which is a fabulous Ireland's national centre for circularity, and you can go in there and you can see all these activities happening. There's a fabulous shop there made from reused and repaired materials, and there's a demonstration hub demonstrating all the circular skills that really we need to encourage and promote. And as one of their initiatives, they fund and promote a hub or they have a fund to help people who want to set up circular economy social enterprises. So they're doing that and supporting this activity on Saturday with that fund.
This is something, Aidan, that's kind of starting to become really popular across the world, across the globe now.
Absolutely. Well, in CRNI, we're part of the Reuse Network, which is the European-wide network of circular social enterprises. And right across the world, you can see that there's a big interest from people in trying to encourage and promote circular activities in their daily lives. And you can see that people, I suppose, are becoming more aware of the damage of consumerism and fast fashion and throwing away stuff. And just, I suppose, even in these times when the cost of living is so high, people can be more appreciative of the opportunities to repair and reuse and make new. So, and there's all kinds of initiatives out there, not only in social enterprises, but I suppose in the commercial world as well, where people are coming up with new ideas and new plans that are circular. And it's great to see, Stephen.
Yeah, they're kind of words that we're not used to hearing, a repair cafe, but this is something that could become very big in the years to come.
Absolutely, yeah. There are people who are keen to do so. As I said, the people who are repairing, it's a good social activity. You're chatting to people about what happened, the item, or how it got to the state it's in. It's great for skills development as well. And I suppose repair skills are a core, one of the things that under the government's new circular economy plan that they're introducing, that they're seeking to develop repair skills as something that might be a source of employment for people in years to come.
Brilliant.
So that's again something that can be harnessed through repair cafes and the like.
And for yourself, like, this is going to be a really busy time now when you have this, repair week. You've got the Thai Library, you have so much coming up in this, and people can really get involved now.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've spoken about the events here in Clonmel next week, and if you go onto the CRNI website or onto the North Tipp Development Company website, ntdc.ie, you'll get the details of tomorrow's events, and also then the Facebook page for the events here in Clonmel next week as well. So that's there's absolutely plenty of opportunity to go on to see and maybe try out some of these circular activities. And maybe you might have an old bicycle that needs repairing, or maybe you might just think that that's an activity that you would be interested in learning those skills. And definitely for instance, during the week, the Rediscovery Centre are going to teach people skills on how to develop lamps from bottles, and
brilliant.
There's a fabulous social enterprise in the Liberties in Dublin called Change Clothes, and they're doing a clothes swap event, which basically you bring 5 old items of clothing, and you can go in and swap with somebody else, and it's a great way to
bring and buy sale.
Absolutely. And I mean, these are the things that we all had when we were going to school when we were kids. We had bric-a-brac sales and bring and buy. And I suppose now when we talk about circularity, we're doing all these things for the modern age. And it's like you can see I suppose my children and young adults really getting into this. And I suppose if you don't have too many pounds in your pockets, it's a great way to get yourself a new rig out for without spending too much money.
Brilliant stuff, Aidan. Just finally, this Saturday, the 23rd of May, 11 a.m. in the Scouts Hall. You're hoping for a big turnout at the public meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is just an information meeting, so don't bring your items that need to be repaired or anything like that. But it is just to see if people have skills that they think they'd like to share, or if people think that this is an enterprise or an activity that really could be needed in the town of Nenagh and the surrounding areas. We're encouraging people to come to the Scouts Hall tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And likewise, if you're closer to Clonmel, come down to Circular Squared on Saturday, the following Saturday, the 30th of May, where they'll have their repair cafe. And I'm sure you'll get a warm welcome there.
Great stuff. Aidan O'Gorman, Executive Director of CRNI, which is the Community Resources Network of Ireland, the all-Ireland representative body for community-based reuse, repair, recycling and waste prevention organisations. Aidan, thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Tipp
Stephen,
Today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tipp Today, just to bring you a flavour of the texts we've had in so far this morning. One says, Stephen, the extraction of water from Shannon to go to Dublin. Ishka Aaron says that they can't take the water from the sea, yet one of the world's biggest ships, and I think it's MV crew for transporting cattle, 20,000 sailings worldwide take in water, it says, and can be used, but Dublin say they can't. Another message in here, Stephen, Alan Kelly is a great politician in opposition. That's from Joe in Newtown. And another one, Alan, is there any accountability in any part of government? Why isn't there anyone ever held responsible? One says here. And another on the pipeline situation. Portugal is building its first mainland seawater desalination plant in Albufeira, in the Albufeira municipality of the Algarve. The 107.9 million facility will convert Atlantic water into drinking water. Could we try this in Ireland? And a question mark there. Another one, and someone asking what time that meeting is on tomorrow in Nenagh for the Community Resources Network Ireland. That's in relation to the conversation with Aidan. It's tomorrow, Saturday the 23rd at 11 a.m. in the Scouts Hall, and then it'll be the following week is Reuse and Repair Week here in Tipp and nationwide. So good lad. One other text to get through here. Morning, Stephen. Please announce Katrina O'Sullivan is playing tonight in Laura Moatfield starting at 9 o'clock. All are welcome. And that's from Jamie Kennedy there. So Katrina O'Sullivan playing tonight in Laura in Moatfield at 9 p.m. A lot to get through there. Going back to the phone lines here, some houses in Tipperary are being deemed too derelict to get planning permission in a situation that has been described as hindering people who are trying to create a home for themselves. At the May meeting of the Tipperary County Council, Independent Councillor Maureen McGrath tabled the motion calling on the Council's planning section to be more flexible in assessing planning applications for derelict properties. Peter Ryan got in touch with the show as he believes it is total madness, and he joins me on the line now. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you today?
Good, Peter. Going well now. And you're saying like that this is, another big issue here in Tipperary.
It is, and I totally agree with Maureen McGrath on the issue of the derelict housing. There is actually no such thing as a more derelict house than the other, really. Every house that's idle for a lot of years is derelict, and it can be brought back to a beautiful house in a space of 6, 8, 12 months. And there's no such thing as too derelict for planning permission or too derelict for anything else. Like, if you look through, this is something that I've big interest in, and I'd say at least 1 or 2 every year. I normally bring from, we'll say, nearly the ashes to the most smashing homes for young people, old people, for whoever wants them. And that's there to be seen in pictures, photos, videos, everything. So I believe, Stephen, that the people making these decisions, when they'd get the first sight of what the like of myself would look at in a derelict house, they might even think to be too bad for a bulldozer because they know no different. But every house, Stephen, can be brought from the dead back to a lovely living house, and 90% of them or 100% of them are always built in the right area. They're built facing the right direction, the sun, the wind, the shelter, and when they're all brought back, they're really beautiful, Stephen, you know.
And I suppose it ties in even with what we were talking to Aidan O'Gorman about a little while ago, repair, recycling and waste prevention. And I mean, this is the same thing on a housing scale here, because you're saying you can put parts in, renew the house, get it up to speed, rather than knocking things and having to start from scratch again, which is more expensive.
Totally, Stephen. And nearly always the base of the house is there. There's nearly always electricity close by, or it may be still in the houses. There's a water supply nearly always there. Normally you shouldn't need planning permission if it's a house in your own area. This thing of planning permission, the house was there, so you should be able to build. I don't know why they brought in this planning permission thing into it. And you don't need an architect, you don't need an engineer. You can just use your own imagination and bring a house back to where it was years ago, or you can modernise it a little bit. But you stick with more of the structure of what was there, Stephen. And it's been proven. There's more houses around the countryside that are just left falling down and left derelict. And our country is in a seriously bad places for houses, especially for our young people, you know.
Yeah, and you could do it in your own time as well, that you're not under pressure to have it done, you know, within 6 months when builders are available, that you just take it step by step and slowly.
Yeah, well, you're allowed 13 months, and if you have sufficient progress made and you can come up with some reason why you got a bit delayed, you can actually get a bit more out of it. So I'd honestly say you'd get up to maybe 18 months to start and finish the product, finish the job. But there is one other major issue, Stephen, and that is the money is not released until, the grant money is not released until the job is completely finished. Somebody's either living in it, or you have a rent contract, or a family member, whatever that. But the money is not released, and that is the major obstacle for an awful lot more of these houses not being put back into use, because you might get up to 70,000 have a grant. That's great. We love that. It's brilliant. It's super to help people, but you'd need another 170 to put the house, to make a house, no matter what kind of a house you're building anymore. So if you have to come up with that 140 or whatever the figures are, there, and a lot of people can't afford to do that. This should be done on a stage payment for the grant money. When you have X amount done, you should get X amount of money. Then carry on doing another amount and another amount. But I don't hear anyone making an issue of this. And to me, on the ground, and I'm dealing with this every day of the week, it's the most major issue of all, is that you have to wait until the very end for your grant money.
And Peter, we're going to run out of time with this very soon, but just if you have a message for Tipperary County Council, what would you say to them right now on the airwaves?
I'd say to get myself or somebody like me to call out to these derelict houses and tell them exactly what can be done. Or actually maybe even tune into our Facebook or our other Instagram, whatever, and have a look at what we have done. But to me, there's too many people with their collars and ties on that have no clue, and they're the ones making the decisions, Stephen.
Good stuff. And what's your Facebook or Instagram that people could see the work that you're talking about and that you've done yourself, Peter?
Well, I often just put it up on my own Peter Ryan Facebook account, and I put up some of the befores, the afters, and that down through the years, and that's where they'd see some of the work. But like I can't put a bit together for the like yourselves. I actually even sent Leanne this morning a before and after of just one particular building, but it was very basic because I hadn't went out to do it for that job. But like that's there to go up on Facebook if they want to.
Great. Well, look, it's something that's definitely worth considering. I'm sure Fran will be back with this next week as well. But like too derelict, it's not really a thing. Nothing is too derelict.
Nothing is too derelict, and I'd prove that to anybody that wants to take this on with me and have a look at it. No problem in the world. There is nothing too derelict.
Great stuff, Peter. Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you this morning.
Stephen,
thanks for joining us.
You're doing a great job, and it was nice speaking to you there. And take care. Mind yourself.
Thanks very much, Peter. I appreciate your kind words.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007. Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tipptoday@tippfm.com.
You're very welcome back to Tipp Today. A couple of texts in there. If somebody wanted to get in touch with Peter Ryan, you can do so on his Facebook page there in relation to derelict houses. We're going to move on here now, and across the country this week, Children's Hospice Week shines a light on the vital support provided to children and families. New research from Laura Lynn reveals that 1 in 3 people in Ireland believe children's hospice care is only for end-of-life support, and the charity Ireland's only children's hospice said this misunderstanding matters because for families it shapes not just what hospice care is but what it feels like to accept it. And the Laura Lynn CEO Kerry McLaverty joins me on the line now. Good morning to you, Kerry.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you here and here on Tipp FM. And this is a really big week, Children's Hospice Week. And like it's an opportunity for you, I suppose, to get your story out there into the public.
That's absolutely right. This is a massive week and we're coming to the end of it. And actually behind me here, they are taking down all of the marquee and everything. We have finished our 24-hour fundraising challenge, which was running for the last 24 hours. And I have to actually at this point give a massive shout out to an individual, an absolutely incredible individual called Owen McGrath, who I think was on your show a couple of weeks ago, who over the last 45 hours ran all the way from Nenagh, 180 kilometres. He came through the gates here at about 9 o'clock this morning with his mum and all of his fans and friends, and has raised an incredible €6,000 for Laura Lynn. So this week, it's about fundraising to support the work that we do. But as you say, it's really important that we raise awareness of the full range of supports that we can provide here at the hospice, because there is that perception that hospice care is just about end-of-life care, and 1 in 3 people, as you say, believe that's all that hospice care is. And so that creates a real fear. And for families who, might have a child who is diagnosed with a life-limiting condition, and then the term Laura Lynn is mentioned to them, and they think hospice, and they think, oh my goodness, my child isn't dying, my child isn't at end of life. And so they might delay getting a referral to Laura Lynn, when those really vital early referrals can mean that we can support them on their entire journey, not just at end of life.
Yeah, it's almost like a stigma becomes attached to, what someone has in their life, and, all of a sudden then they avoid what can help.
Absolutely. And what people also don't know about Laura Lynn is that it's not just about care for the child. Yes, obviously that is an important part of what we do, but our entire range of supports are for the whole family. So we support parents. We do a lot of really amazing work with siblings who can sometimes be what we often call the forgotten mourners, because they are struggling with having to deal with the emotion. And some of these are very young brothers and sisters who are dealing with the emotions of perhaps feeling, jealous or angry at their brother or sister who might be taking up all of mum and dad's time when they have to provide care around the clock, and they have to deal with these really complex emotions. So our therapists here will work with them through play therapy or music therapy to help explore some of those really complex emotions. And even then for grandparents, another group that we provide a lot of support for, because they might be dealing with not just the loss of their grandchild, but they're also grieving for their own child's loss. So there's that double impact piece. So Laura Lynn's support can make sure that all the family receive the care that they need, no matter where they are, I suppose, in their palliative care journey.
And I suppose that's something, it's not just the immediate family that is affected. There's that wider range of experience. And I presume you're just looking at that all the time and seeing how you can expand in terms of your care as well.
Absolutely. And actually what was really fitting yesterday during Children's Hospice Week was the launch of a really, really valuable piece of research that we've been waiting on. We co-funded this piece of research that is looking, for the first time, we actually have real Irish population data on the number of children and families that live in Ireland with a life-limiting condition. It's hard to believe, but up until now, we have been using UK-based statistics to estimate the number of children living in Ireland with a life-limiting condition. So for the first time now, we have Irish data. And what is quite surprising, I suppose, maybe to some people, is that the numbers are nearly double the estimates that we have been using up until now. So what the research is now telling us is that there are somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 children living in Ireland with a life-limiting condition, where previously we would have estimated that to be closer to 4,000. So the demand and the need for wraparound supports for these children and families is absolutely vital. And the research went further to look at, this is a very small percentage of the population, so these children represent less than 1% of all children in Ireland, but that 1% of the population utilise, if you look at even just the acute hospitals, they utilise about 20% of all the hospital bed days. So they're a really, really complex group of children who need really, really specialised supports. And so that tells us a lot in terms of how we can use this research to make sure that we're meeting all of the needs of these children and families. And for Laura Lynn, it's really important to learn how we can continue to grow and expand our services. Our 8 beds here in Dublin, we know just aren't going to be enough to meet the needs of these families all across Ireland. And we heard from a mum actually from Limerick yesterday who outlined her struggle of the journey that she has to prepare for every time she comes to an appointment in a hospital in Dublin. She may have, for example, an 8 o'clock appointment in Dublin. That means she has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get feeds and changes and to plan a 2.5-hour journey with a very medically fragile child. And then she might get to Dublin and mightn't see a consultant until 10 o'clock. So all of that family perspectives and the real challenges that they face mean that we need to do a lot more practical supports for these families, not just the healthcare piece, but the financial burden of travelling up and down. We need to bring care closer to home for these families. And for Laura Lynn, that's definitely going to be a large part of what we continue to grow and support that need.
And every family is different and every family has their own needs. Do you get enough support, do you feel, to, help the people involved in the best way you can? Can you get more, do you feel, from the government? And, does a week like this go a long ways to ensuring that this year is better than the last for you even?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's always, we feel that there's more. We've been knocking on the door in terms of statutory funding for a long time, and we do get about 30% of our operating costs covered. But it does mean that we have to rely predominantly on the generosity of the Irish public and your listeners to support the work that we do. So there's definitely more that, I feel that our government need to do to invest in providing these vital supports. This year alone, we'll have to raise just shy of €8 million on top of what the government give us to keep our services running. So that's a big challenge every year. We're particularly this year, we know, and talking to colleagues in the charity sector, charities are really struggling this year. There's, the cost of living crisis, all of the different, geopolitical crises that are going on at the moment. They all have an impact, and I know a lot of charities. We ourselves, we're behind target where we're supposed to be this year, so it's an ongoing challenge. But I have to say the Irish public are renowned for their generosity in supporting vital work that charities do across the country. But there's definitely investment, I think, more that we need from the government, and that's part of the ongoing battle that we have as charities.
Yeah, it should be something that you just, if you need it, you get it, ultimately with Ireland, with the affluence that is about at the moment. And like you look into a lot of different aspects of people's lives, and you're trying to just make it special, everyday moments that you can turn into, a memory, almost like a movie night or playtime or things like that, larger celebrations even. Like the work you do, I think, is incredible. And like you have to tailor everything for the individual families that you come across, I presume, Kerry.
Absolutely. Every child who comes into Laura Lynn, they get referred, and we complete what we call a holistic needs assessment. So that assessment, they meet with the members of the care team who go out and they try to understand what the family are experiencing, what some of their challenges are, what are their goals. And you're right, every single family is different and what they need. And even as they traverse, I suppose, their palliative care journey, and it can be over many years. That's the other piece, is that some children may come to us for very short periods of time. Other families will be with us on a journey over many years, and some will even, what we call, graduate and will transition to adult services as well. As technology and medical intervention gets better, these children are living longer, and so it's how we can support them all the way through their journey, and that those supports are targeted and tailored. So every year we review the care that we're giving families. We're getting their feedback. Are we still meeting their needs? And it is making sure that we are, as you say, putting those really special moments in their lives. That's really what Laura Lynn is all about. It allows parents to just be parents. So when families are staying with us here in Laura Lynn, we take care of all of the medical needs. We provide accommodation here so they can just switch off. They can actually just focus on being a family, having special moments together. We do our fabulous therapeutic arts programs. Like we create an Oscars program, for example, every year, where families will create a movie. So they'll star in it. They'll write the script with professional scriptwriters from RTE. They will star in acting roles, and it'll be something that means something. Then we have this gorgeous Oscars red carpet black tie event in the Odeon Cinema. They get to experience being in a limo, going to the cinema, getting their awards. It's just really special, and it's for us, it's a therapeutic piece, because there's a legacy for the family that even after that child dies, they will have that, I suppose, that film as a legacy piece for their entire family. So it's about creating really, really special things for families and moments of joy and happiness. Like Laura Lynn, again, that misconception that a hospice care is around end-of-life care and it must be so sad. And it absolutely is. We have sad days. But at the same time, most of what we do, I would say 99% of the time, it's about making a really happy, joyous place for these families.
Well, Laura Lynn, doing fantastic work. Kerry McLaverty, thank you for joining us this morning on Tipp FM.
Thank you so much.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson here, and I hope you're enjoying the show this morning. And it's time for our panel, and joining us today we have Phil Prendergast, agony aunt, midwife and former MEP, and Joe Leahy, founder of Seesaw and also security analyst. Joe Leahy. And then we've also Tom Hennessy, who's here with us, a community activist and a historian. You're all very welcome. My first panel, so I'm glad to have you all here.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Great stuff. We've a lot to get through today, and I suppose the first thing we're going to speak about is the flotilla. And the flotilla, the Taoiseach has condemned video footage of illegally detained participants of the Global Summit Flotilla, which includes 14 Irish citizens being taunted by Israel's National Security Minister. And Dr. Margaret Connolly, sister of Irish President Catherine Connolly, is one of the 12 citizens on board. And I suppose just to start, did you see the videos? What did you think? Over to you, Phil.
I did see the videos, yeah, and I think it's a very sad situation where you have this sort of brutality being visited upon people that are doing something that's in the interests of the world, really. And what we saw on it, where they were put down on the ground and they were bound, and like there was questions of sexual assault and there was questions of brutality being visited upon them as well. So it's hard when you see it and you read it and you think, oh my God, can this actually be happening? And then you think, well, it was their soldiers went in there, they did that, they thought they had the rights to do it, and it was in a free space in the ocean. So it's wrong on every count.
Joe?
I suppose there's two ways of looking at this. I can understand well why they went in, and I can understand the reason they did, but at the same time then they knew where they were going, and it was well flagged to them in advance that this would happen to them, that they were going to be removed or taken out or whatever else if they did go in. So they knew that well in advance. So the question that I'd ask, I suppose, is, which hasn't been answered yet, is, who pays for them coming home? Who pays for chartering the planes? Who pays for getting them out? And who pays for all this? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Yes, what Israel is doing is incredibly wrong and all that, and everybody agrees with that. But I'm not too sure, like what's the benefit of what they do? Some people will say, yes, it highlights it. Some people will say, yes, it keeps it on the airwaves and it does all that. But I think that was going to happen anyway. I do understand what Phil is saying, but at the same time, these people on all these flotillas, they knew where they were going, they knew what was ahead of them, and they still went ahead and did it, And
did you think that they're aware of the risks involved, that they were aware of that when they...
Oh, they were. Well, in my opinion, they certainly were. Like, the thing is, I'll ask the question, like, would I go out and do that? I say I wouldn't, because you know what the outcome is going to be. You know what's going to happen to you when you go there. The risk. If you look at the risk, it's a one-sided story. They're not going to let you through. They're going to arrest you, whatever, in-house you, whatever term they want to put on it, they're going to do that. Whether that's illegal or illegal, it doesn't matter to them. They're going to do it anyway. Israel are going to do that anyway, because they're not going to let you through. So that's going to happen one way or another.
Well, they're going to say they're entitled to do that when these people arrive.
Correct, that's what they're going to say, and you're in my territory, and that's the end of that. Whether that's right or wrong, they're going to say it anyway. So what chance have you inside on the high seas in a bit of a boat, And like, why did they say from reports that the minute they come on, your phones are fired overboard and all that? So what does that put you? Where does that put you? So it's breaking down communications to this outside world, and the only way this can ever be started is through communication, dialogue and peace and all that. It's not going to be happening any other way.
Okay, over to you, Tom. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, most Irish people, there's a sympathy there for the Palestinians because of our own history with colonial, what has happened to our country. But I think that the ship has sailed as regards. I actually think at the moment in Ireland we are in a serious situation with our own country. And sometimes it's easier for people to campaign on faraway problems than problems in their own backyard. Now, we don't have genocide being acted on us here at the moment, but I would say that we've another type of a serious attack on our people, as in, if you have a child there now with special needs or a child with autism, we've had children dying on waiting lists. These are Irish problems. I'd like to know, like, how many of those people that are completely caught up with the whole Palestinian thing, do they ever go out and protest for our own people, our own country? And while I totally understand and the mindset of an Irish person getting on a boat and trying to break a blockade in that country, what the Israelis are doing is a scandal. We all agree with that, and it is a genocide. However, I think that there's too many people now that would prefer to be holding a Palestinian flag than a tricolour in Ireland today. And it's been that way for the last number of years. So we need to get our own house in order. And, you know, there's loads of things can be done in Ireland by people. Like, there's nobody speaking up for, autism is a huge thing. If you have a sick child, if you have a child with special needs, if your child's waiting on a spinal bifida operation, these are all serious. Genocide is, I know it's a strong word, but if the government have let a child die in a waiting list, and in my eyes, that's a genocide on an Irish person perpetuated by their own government. And, you know.
Okay, and do you think, you know, if people from across the globe intervened in Irish problems, that would help?
Yeah, but like, I mean, you know, there's Irish people locked up in British-controlled jails on our island, and there's bad things happening up there, and there's homes being wrecked by Crown forces, but there's nobody speaking up about that because it's not fashionable, you see. You know, 'tis easy to stand with a Palestinian flag than it is to stand and protest about the treatment of an Irish man above in McGabry or somewhere, you know. That's the problem I have with it, is that it's you know, it's far away protesting is easier to do, but if you're at risk of your own home being raided because you're making a stand, or if you're coming out strong on a child on a waiting list, you mightn't be popular, you know, people might say, why you causing trouble. And I think we need to seriously have a look at ourselves as a country, as a people now. And I think the fuel crisis, Stephen, which was the biggest, mobilisation of Irish people, people said since the 1916 rising. Now, it wasn't a violent rising, thank God, it was a protest. But how many people that were involved in the Palestinian protest stood at roundabouts or roadways or whatever? Like, I was with the people in Care, the farmers, and I didn't see I saw ordinary farmers, shopkeepers, business people, but I know some of the heads of the people that stand here in Clonmel with the Palestinian flags regular. I didn't see too many of them on it,
Okay, Phil, put it to you. Do you think what happens globally affects Ireland? As Tom mentioned, the fuel protests, does that all stem from this as well?
Oh, it does, yeah. And I mean, look, there's a whole cost of living crisis happening right now in our country, because with everything has increased so much. The price of oil has gone up, so fuel has gone up, diesel has gone up, petrol has gone up. Every single thing we need to live our daily lives has been impacted by something that's beyond our control and is not our fault. But at the same time, there's a multitude of reasons why people should have adequate access to some degree of support, monetary support or financial support, when you're in a situation like that, where are people that have come to this country looking for asylum, they're living here, they're operating sometimes in dreadful conditions. And I don't know that we're doing the best favour for people by giving them asylum and then not really having the means to support their situation. It's a very difficult. It's very wide. Wouldn't you agree?
Like we've 17,000 homeless in Ireland today. Crazy. There's talks about more of these IPAS centres being opened up. Like, the ordinary person that gets up for work in the morning, the squeeze middle, they're not happy with this government and the money that's been wasted. And, communities, we were told that people have no veto on who comes into their area. Well, bad things have happened in Ireland in the last number of years, and serious questions have to be asked about the policy of this government.
Joe?
Well, I suppose the topic is the flotilla. And I suppose if we go back to the flotilla, the question has to be asked, is why do a group of people get together and decide that we're going to do, hire a boat, rent a boat, buy a boat, whatever the story is, and join up with a whole pile of people who believe in the same agenda, the same topic, and head off out into the high seas and hope for the best, which is what has happened here.
Okay.
You know, they're diehard believers in their cause. That's what they want to do. But with that has to come a massive amount of risk. And the predicament that I have with all these things is like when they're out there in the high seas, and then they knew that they weren't going to get through. They knew that they were going to be hijacked somewhere along the way, that they were going to be arrested, that they were going to be detained, whatever the words are. They knew this was going to happen. And then the next thing, everybody is up in arms, why aren't they being brought home? What did the Irish government do about it? And what are the Irish people doing about it and all that? And what's their constitutional rights? They have a responsibility as well before they went out to look at themselves and say, well, what are we getting into here? Like, everybody agrees that what Israel is doing is totally wrong. Everybody agrees to that. But you have to do a risk analysis on yourself, and then you're depending on someone else to bail you out and to get you back home. There isn't one word like about who pays for the chartered flights. There's not one word about any of that.
So do you think that the financial costs and the intervention that's needed to get these people on the flotilla is a waste of resources?
Well, it's not their first time after being out on the flotilla. They were back out again there a couple of weeks ago, and they say, some of them at least. So when you go back here, what'll happen again in 2 or 3 weeks' time? Will the same thing again happen in 2 or 3 weeks' time? Like, why doesn't somebody say, hold on a while, we're going to call a halt to this? If you want to protest, you protest. Off you go, bait off yourself, and you protest. But on your own, on your head, it'll be like, if you run into deep water, well, you know, don't expect us all to bail you out, like.
Would you agree with that, Tom, that if you're an Irish citizen and you make a decision to go on a flotilla, it should be, you know, your life on the line, your own responsibility? Yeah. Should the state be involved?
No, 100%. And if we could get even a fifth of the energy that some of these people have, which, you know, it's become a bit of a protest cult in my eyes. If we could get some of that energy to focus on Ireland's problems and on the fact that, you know, we still have major problems here, as I said, with, you know, our own people, waiting lists, fuel crisis, you know, and, you know, if we could get some of that energy, if they'd focus on our own, wouldn't it be great, like, you know?
I suppose you're bringing it all back home, and like we have Dr. Margaret Connolly, sister of the Irish President Catherine Connolly, on that flotilla. Catherine herself is in Clonmel today, coming down to visit here. She was in Britain during the week, and Phil had put it to you that, you know, Britain's King Charles III, he's set to undertake a state visit to Ireland now, when he said he graciously accepted the invitation during their meeting in Buckingham Palace during the week. You know, it was a big call, and it's good for relations, I suppose, here and across the water.
You see, I would welcome the fact that our honorary president is going to be meeting with the King of England. That's always good. That's always good relations. I read in some part of the blurb around it that she shook his hand and then touched his arm, and apparently no arm should be touched ever if it's belonging to a king.
Protocol.
I just thought, you know what, this is there is a warmth about Irish people when they're in a position and when they're meeting somebody, and there's a kind of a warmth that goes a bit beyond the staid kind of a slight little courtesy and bowing the head and thank you and 3 bags full, sir. It's a nice relationship to have, that they can be, you know, that this is a nice relaxed environment, which it is. The fact that she has a sister that's gone off on a flotilla is, again, it's a bit like it's emotive, to say the least, because you're just thinking, gosh almighty, do they really know what they're doing, or why are they doing this?
Yeah. Are they living their best life though at the same time?
Yeah, I suppose there's that, you know.
Joe?
Yeah, I suppose, what do you say, like, I take no notice, like, of you know, President Connolly, you know, touching the Prince Charles' hand or arm. She wasn't the first woman to do it, I might as well tell you. So where do we go with that, like, and what is it about it? You can bring protocol so far, but how high does protocol go? How far does protocol go? Bit of human nature, a bit sit down, how's it going there yourself, how are things? Do you know, like, it's the same as meeting people anywhere, and it's good to be talking. God knows we were long enough not talking. It's great to be talking, it's great to reciprocate and invite a person back, and to have the freedom to do that without having to go through 54 committees before you do it. Just can't you come over yourself there next year, come on. And yes, like everything else, yes, there is a cost and there's all this and all that, but at the end of the day, they're our nearest neighbours, and we have to be, you know, we're far better off to be talking, communicating, having them over, vice versa, and doing all that. But sometimes the press pick up on some of these things for a headline story, you know. like, Lord God, doesn't matter in the end of the day, like whether she touched his hand or arm or whatever else, you know.
Yeah. President Connolly received some backlash that she went through with the visit to England while her sister's in a bad situation. So does work come before family in that instance, and she's here back in Ireland today, Tom?
Yeah. Do you want my opinion on the giving the invitation? Yeah, like, I'd be totally against that. In my mind, like, she's quoted as saying there, we've the decolonisation of our minds, and she said all the complexity. It's not a bit complex. So we still have a foreign army claiming, this man is claiming jurisdiction over 6 of our counties, and you don't have to, like, it's not taught in the schools, but I mean, I was talking to a man this morning and I was saying, like, you have Ballymurphy, you have Derry. We had what happened to elected representatives during the 1981 hunger strikes let die in these people's prisons. Now, if there was a border poll in the morning, now they have control over that as per the Good Friday Agreement, more crazy stuff. But if they had removed their illegal occupation from our country, I'd be the first to say, great, invite them in, welcome them, the whole lot. But it's unfinished business. It's not a normal relationship. And what I worry about, Stephen, is that if you've school kids, which like happened a few years ago, singing in Cashel, if you've all the dignitaries queuing up to meet, some of them bowing to meet this foreign monarch, it's sending out the wrong message to our children. And at the moment, it's been going on for years, but there is an attitude, and it's coming from on high, it's in our universities, that you gloss over the fact of what has been done to our country.
But Tom, if we don't move on from the British's role here in Ireland, will we ever be able to make progress?
Yeah.
Is having a good relationship with Britain not the way to make?
Yeah, but
progress
it's not a normal relationship. It's like if the Germans were still in the top corner of France, and the French were inviting them in and even going to some of their memorials and laying wreaths. That's where we're at. Like, it's a crazy situation. And as I say, look, peace is good, but you have to draw a line. And I think we're now in a situation where our country deserves to be united. Why should a foreign government be calling the shots over us? And I even said to Fran there, the last one was on, we had a crazy situation. We unveiled a monument to Sean Hogan the weekend before your man Charles was in care, and we invited local councillors. One person came. The following weekend, they were all queuing in care to meet this lad. Now, these are the same family, remember, that were bringing Sean Hogan to be executed in Cork for our freedoms that we have today.
Joe, you want to come in there?
You see, I would totally disagree with what Thomas said there, because we have, as you said yourself, Steve, we have to go forward. Doesn't mean you forget. You don't forget. Like, we don't. Listen, there's hurling matches we don't forget. There's tragic accidents on the road we don't forget. We don't forget storms. We don't forget weather. We don't forget our history. Of course we don't forget. But you have to create peace, and the only way you'll create peace is to be communicating with each other, go forward, understand the past, accept where we are now, and build on that and move on. And if you shun people, you have no chance in the wide earthly world of joining hands or sorting a problem. Like, if you have two people in a standoff position, you're never going to get compromise. Like, you see the ambulance strike there last week with the workers. What happened? Eventually, they went to the Labour Court, they sat down, they spoke. There's a chance of it being sorted. But the bottom line of all that is that at least they're talking. If we decide to shun the king, who's happens to be the boss man in our nearest country to us, and we just shun him, we don't talk to him anymore, we don't invite him to our country, that's only going to create more hardline thoughts, more hardline, in my opinion, more conflict than it will ever heal.
First of all, Joe, he's not the king, he's the King of England, and that's another type of revisionism that's gone on here over the last number of years. If you go up to the Rock of Cashel today, I wasn't up there now for last year, but the last time I was up there was a big massive picture of this lad's mother visiting the Rock. Now, she walked through a hall there, the old ruins of the church, where thousands of Cashel people were burned to death. Not a mention of that. Like, if you go and do the tour up there, now we actually asked the day I was up there, I actually asked, why is that person on the wall? And, they couldn't give me an answer. But still, in 1992, we had the beatification of a man called Tipp Galdove. Now, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he was beatified in 1992 by Pope John Paul, and he was tortured and burned to death up there in the rock. There's no picture of him up there, and that he was a man trying to save our bit of Gaeilge up there,
But I'm not saying for 2 seconds that everything that happened in the past was right. I'm not. But we can't. It is now 27 minutes past 11. We can't go back to 11 o'clock.
Yeah, but Joe, you're
That's
not
gone.
by inviting by I don't know who gave her I presume it was the government told her, invite him. But by giving an official invitation, it's putting these people on a pedestal, and it's complete revisionism. And even to see him up there holding a bower on, and some of the heads of the cultists were there. I think it's total. It's forgetting about.
I don't agree with you at all. I honestly think the way forward in any thing is communication. It's dialogue. It's talking to people and doing all that.
Just to finish up with this, I suppose his title is King, we would say, and we'd probably be offended if Catherine Connolly was called Catherine during her trip to Britain instead of President Connolly. What's your thoughts on it, Phil, to finish up on this topic?
My thoughts are, Catherine Connolly is in town today. I don't know at whose invitation. We are former members of the Borough Council and the County Council, etc. We weren't informed about any of that. We heard it on the news. I don't know why she's here. I don't know at whose invitation. It seems to be very strange that we would have a president in our town and we have no Borough Council. So being in the borough of Clonmel is no longer a term.
Okay, it's more an English title from before.
But to me, I'm confused about the reason and the purpose of her visit. I don't know what it is about, and I just think it's very strange that if you're going to have a president in your town and it's a big deal, but none of us that were former members of all that whole thing know anything about it. Strange.
Okay, interesting one. Just before we go to the break, just to say we invited President Connolly to come in this morning here to Tipp FM. We invited her on, but she was unavailable this morning. But we're going to take a quick break. Back with more. Lively panel here, so do feel free to get in touch on the text line 083 311 3311. Quick break, back with more soon.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
You're very welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson here, and I'm joined here in studio by Joe Leahy, Phil Prendergast and Tom Hennessy here as part of the Friday panel. And this week many Tipperary fans were extremely disappointed by Tipp's performance against Clare in the hurling, but it was the GAA Go paywall that left many listeners unhappy. Teresa Collins joined us during the week and she shared her dismay at the decision, and she said it was not fair on elderly people who have supported the GAA their whole lives and how important it is to so many in rural Ireland, and now the matches are behind a paywall. What do you think of that decision? Joe, we'll go to you first here.
Yeah, it's certainly a serious concern. I think that in a lot of places that some aspects of the GAA have lost their way. I think they're forgetting, it's the price we're paying for this so-called progress, and I will say so-called progress. What I suppose frightens me, a bit, is the thing that a lot of these stadiums are now sponsored by a company. You have UPC, Nolan Park, and you have, FPD, Simple Stadium, Super Value Park, Keeve. You go on with all these. And surely, to good God, it was not going to cost the end of the earth to put a lot of these on Sairview. If you sit, free, maybe not on Sairview, but certainly free to air. If you look at a lot of these things, you're a hurling man, this, Stephen, better than anyone else. We're talking out today in 2026 about the All-Ireland, the final aspects of heading into the All-Ireland series. like, we can still name now the 6 or 8 teams that are going to be involved in hurling and football finals in 2027, not alone 2026. So what about the weaker counties? What about these other so-called counties? What are we doing for them? Surely, to good God, one of the ways to do it is to broadcast it on television, to let kids see it, to let children see it, to let it out there, let the elderly encourage their grandkids to go to see these games and do all that. And also let grandparents see their own grandchildren playing some of the games and something like this. And I think it is a disastrous decision to put it behind paywall. I think it eliminates so many people. I think it should be free, all those matches, for the length of time they're taken. The season is now all confined, and for that length of time, I certainly think it should be free.
And the players aren't getting paid either. Over to you, Tom. Your thoughts?
Like, who are they hurting? Only the salt of the earth people. Say, I see our own club there now, like the elder members that have always had cash and always gone to matches or decided last minute to go to a match. But that's who they're hurting. Anyone under 50 will cope, but you see, as Joe said there, they've gone away from what they were about. And from the top down, I just recall, getting back to our last topic, the time that the Queen of England was brought onto the sacred ground at Croke Park. Joe Barrett, the Kerry football legend, his family took the medals out of the museum in Croke Park. It seems to be at the top now. It's all money. I see the All Ireland there. We'd match adverts for joining the British Army and the PSNI, stuff like that. They've gone away from. They were traditional core values of the GA, and it was a people's movement. It was a Republican nationalistic movement when it started, and if they've gone away from. There's people making a lot of money out of the GA, and those great Tipperary players in any county, when they get to an All Ireland, in my opinion, they should all be getting something out of the big gate receipts, and it's all focused on themselves. And I know there's controversy there. They had Alliance, the insurance company, over the Israeli connection there. Like, that's all. That's not the GA. The GA should be for the people, about the people, and as that man, he spoke very well, the West Board chairman, O'Shea, I think's his name. He said they're getting diktats down from Croke Park, and that's exactly what it is. It's become a bit of a dictatorship, and I'm a member of my own Luby GA club, and all my kids play GA. I love the GA. We're a GA family, but they've lost their way in a big way, and it's kind of sad, like.
Yeah, so that was the Westport GA chairman, John O'Shea, who was talking to us as well about the fact that cash is no longer permitted as payment at entry points to matches going forward in Tipperary, and the board is offering a tap and go payment system and pre-buying of tickets, but you can't just roll up with your cash anymore and go in. Is it a sign of the times, Phil? Is it the way you see society going now? Or are your thoughts on that?
I think that people should have a choice about what way they want to pay. Yeah. There are some people, and there's scammers everywhere now. They can pass by you and they can take money from your phone. It's going to be a situation where if we want to remove the actual physical act of having money in your pocket. Now, I realise there's a lot of people who wouldn't be happy about bringing money and want some money or whatever in your pocket and not being safe about it, because there's pickpockets everywhere as well. But I'm not wanting to diss people about going to matches and that someone is going to take their money out of their pockets. But to have imposed where you can only tap and go going into a match, I think you're taking a bit of the crack out of it. You're taking a bit of the humanity. I've never yet heard, now maybe I am wrong, and I could be wrong, but I've never yet heard of the takings of match to be stolen on the pitch. It's never happened. The GA is a very honourable group. And the other thing I want to say is people were very disappointed that Tipperary didn't win the match again. Like, there's only going to be one winner if it's not a draw. Everyone can have an off day. Do you know what I mean? So there's a few things bothering me about the fact that people could be they could be dissing Tipperary players because they didn't perform the best, or they might be going through a period of transition where they have a lot of new players, younger players who are fantastic, but they may not yet have gelled together collectively to be that team that needs to be the team that will win. And we have to accept this. This is it's a normal part of life. It's a normal part of discourse.
Yeah, and the fact that cash is going and the players are being abused online, everything is moving online on the phone, so there's a big change there in society in general.
There is, and I'm also going to say this, and even if I am an old person, I use my card, I use my tap, I use my phone to pay for groceries, I do all of that, but if I want something, I still like to have some money around the place. But it's people are becoming fearful of having actual cash. But now there's so many scammers out there, and if you go into seeing what's the top 10 scams in this country, it's where people are going phishing, as in PHISHING, and they're able to take, they're able to get money from you, they're able to add a note when you're after putting in that you're buying something for €10 or whatever, and there's all sorts of scams happening. And no matter what happens, if it's particularly, and I'm going to give out here, if it's Revolut will not, unless you have to go through the hoops to get money back if something is taken on you from Revolut.
Should the Gardaí be doing something about that? Again,
we do not have enough Gardaí. You have to have kind of forensic Gardaís to look at things like this. We have a town. Now, it's rare enough. I'm certainly not criticising the Gardaí. I have the best of time for those people. I think they work extremely hard. But we haven't enough. We haven't enough guards.
Okay.
And if you want to dedicate someone to looking at the fraudulent activities that's going on in any town, or if people go in and say, look, this happened, I was out and I had so much money on my phone in the app, and now there's 100 gone out of it, or there's 200 gone out of it, and I don't know how that happened, and it's because someone has fished them.
Yeah, I suppose like crime has moved online almost as well.
See, it's gone very cultivated. It's for uncultivated people.
Joe, your thoughts on cash disappearing as such in society, because there's less and less in circulation in a lot of instances now.
There is. Having said that, I was at a confirmation last Tuesday week, and believe you me, you'd want cash.
Well, you see, that's a rule now. Confirmations and things like that are very, and communions, very important that you have cash in the pocket. And I can tell you have to have the right notation.
But I think one of the things that's what happened here, is without going back into it, but this came in like during COVID with the tap, and you know what I mean, that they brought in the tap and we couldn't handle cash. We're passing on this disease there, and I know because I was sick at the time. So you're looking at all these things and you're saying then, and then they moved on then to this, and somebody told me somewhere in some county, let me put it that way to you, that the GA were now making more money because of the tap than they were the old way. You know what I mean? So that beggars the question. It wasn't around here now, but it was somewhere. So the reality is, is this the way we're moving? Is this the way we have to move? I still think, and I honestly believe, that there should be one individual at all gates that just takes cash. I really do.
Absolutely.
Because what can happen, you see, is a lot of things that can happen. You're a GA mentally ill. A lot of things can happen. What happens there, like, they're at the spur of the moment. Do you know what I mean? And, something happens. Will I go to the match I want? Is it going to rain? Isn't it? Oh, jeez, I'll go down. So we all do this kind of thing. I'll go, who's playing? One versus B, whatever, A versus B. Jeez, I'll go down. And you're down below, you had the tenner. Sorry, we can't let you in. Oh, and you with 20 quid.
It's an interesting one. I think it's going to roll and roll. We're going to have to take a quick break, and we're back with more after this.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
You're welcome back to Tipp Today with me, Stephen Gleeson. Our panel are all here with us. A lot of messages coming through. Cash is legal tender, cards are not. One says here, I've major issues with religious organisations taking over the grounds in Croke Park as well, and there's a lot of different events going on there. I agree with the panel as regards the flotilla, someone says. I agree with Tom Finnessy on the British monarchy. Somebody else says here, I think they are wrong in what they say about the flotilla. Somebody else says, so a lot of calls here. And another thing that's been in the news all week here is since Opposition leader Mary Lou MacDonald said RTE top brass believe the rules don't apply to them while working people are playing by the rules, and she called on the government to sort this out as she demanded accountability and consequences. It came after it was revealed that Derek Mooney has been at least its 9th highest paid presenter since 2020, that's in RTE, but had not featured in annual lists as he was classified as a producer. And we had Alan Kelly on that topic earlier on today as well. Tom, I'll come to you first on this one. Like, a lot of talk about RTE, you know, has it lost its connection with the public? You know, do you agree or disagree with one of our callers this week, Philip?
Yeah, it's completely, like, I would put, you know, not to sound like a broken record, but RT, you know, if you watch the news even there, you're going to get a one-sided side, and it'll be, you know, the government side. And, you know, they've been accused of being a propaganda for the government. I would say that they are. And I think that who comes up with these figures of like hundreds of thousands for presenters? I'd love to know when the first time that they decide to pay someone, was it $150,000 odd, or I remember Ray Darcy was on crazy money there as well, for what, 2 hours every day, or what, an hour and a half or something like that. Where do they get these figures from? Or
Ian Dempsey, the same, was on massive money. We've had this kind of a situation going on where people, Ryan Tubridy, I think, was the cash list, where he was having very high salaries, and then when he decided to walk, they left a big thing where a lot of people lost interest in RTE and the way business is done at that time, because you know, what's the value of someone going in with a puppet on their lap or whatever and getting more than 100,000 or 150,000 or even more per week? This was ridiculous money. I'm not saying presenters and our producers shouldn't get paid well. They should get paid a normal, valid salary. That's what they should be getting. This exorbitant amount of money where someone is getting 500,000 a year is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And we have this thing now in this country where you'd have to ask yourself, how many people are actually looking at RTE?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I'm not that interested in looking at RTE anymore.
Okay, right. Joe, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, much the same as I'll tell you. I think what's going on here, like a lot of, you just said that you're on one wage, Stephen, and I'm coming in. For some unknown reason, I have to be more than you are. And then we're going after Tom, or we're going after Phil, then they have to be more than I am, because this thing goes on somewhere along the line that, you know, if we don't take him, someone else will get him and there'll be a better producer, presenter and all this kind of thing. That day and age is long gone. And I mean that, like, if you look at it across a lot of organisations, the money that they're on is absolutely astronomical, way above their calling, way above their ability as well, and way above their what they're entitled to earn or what they should be getting. I think that with RTE in particular, I think that the Minister for Communications need to get their hand on this and need to say, listen, this is it. The amount of money that we're given, because don't forget that the government are giving them X amount of money. I don't know what the figures are, but they're giving them massive money to bail them out. That's all taxpayers' money. Yeah. The television licence is going in as well. That's more taxpayers' money going in on top of it. And all these people are getting money, but they're not declaring it. It's not, we're talking about earlier on, a paywall. This is a paywall, because there's stuff going on. They're getting X plus Y plus Z. And there's another way of doing this, and another way of getting a free card, another way of getting something else, another way of getting sponsored by this. This is all colossal money. But then again, if you look at the product at the end of it, the product doesn't stand up to this at all.
Okay, a lot of trails there, Tom.
Yeah, but I would call it part of the golden circle. Like, who decided I think Micheál Martin's on 250,000 or some crazy figure like that, more than the President of America. As Joe said there, like, their output, I would say at RT don't focus either on Irish or traditional programmes enough. But it's a big golden circle. There seems to be loads of money, and as Joe said, all taxpayers' money for what they want to spend it on. And we've become now, and I think the fuel crisis brought it all up to a head. And thank God more people have woke up. I heard what Phil said there about not watching RT. I would say the 60 plus bracket that watched RT, I would say they're getting one-sided view of everything that's happening in Ireland. But I think the fuel protest has opened up people's eyes, and more people now are not happy with what's going on with our country. But even getting back to as the King of England, what's he going to cost coming over? 40 million, I think, was the last visit. So who is it? The civil servants are coming up with these figures. Let's give Mihal there 250,000. Let's give the next lad. In my opinion, if you're elected onto the county council, and I'm between two ex-professional local politicians, we'll call them here now, councillors, and an MEP to my right. Sorry, Jesus, sorry, Joe, no offence, but I'm an MEP here, an ex-MEP. But like, I think if you're elected in a local election, first of all, it should be the honour of getting elected. If you're elected to the Dáil, they should be on half the money they're on, including councillors. Why are they on these massive amounts? It should be an honour to go in and represent your people.
Phil?
I know when I was elected to the Borough Council first, there was no pay.
Yeah.
And I think we were quite a few years, were we, Joe, before we actually started to get a recognition that there was a time cost to our time, and there was you had to do a lot of research, and you had to prepare briefs, and you had to whatever. And when you had a mayoralty, you could be, I remember on a Christmas Eve having 15 events that I had to attend to. So there's a lot about being a public representative, but there's also a need to have some degree of a salary. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you that there should be a cap on that, and it should be something that's reviewed, and that you have the incremental increases with the incremental cost of living, and that's fair and that's equal.
But when you go
about a minute and a half, Joe.
When you go to a national broadcaster like you know, this are not like look at the effort, and I'm not just licking ass here, and I'll say this out straight. Look at the work that Tipp FM and the presenters do, like week in, week out, and we're still, for I might as well tell you, like a dot for what they're getting in remuneration. But when you look at what is going on, the amount of money that's wasted in RTE, it's absolutely wasted. Another person came up with a very interesting point too. You know, what's wrong with the selling all their lands and moving out, or moving back out to the Midlands, or moving out somewhere else? Yes, it might be signals, we're at the moving on in that digital age, something else crazily forward. So, but I honestly think that there needs to be serious accountability, openness, and I mean open. There should be no more hidden behind this, or who's on this, like who's a presenter, who's a producer. We'll give you a few bob for presenting, but we'll give you more than for, it's like the car and the trailer, we'll give you a plus one.
If those salaries were halved, well, you see, you'd have a different type of person running for local office, running for you'd have, it's like a gravy train at the moment.
Last word to you, Phil, about 20 seconds.
I would say the young people are going to be our saviours, because they might have much more ability. They're so much more media savvy. They're so much more savvy with computers and doing all sorts of things, doing it on their tiny little phone. Fantastic.
Great stuff. Huge thanks, Joe Leahy, Phil Pendergast and Tom Hennessy here with me, Stephen Gleeson. Before we finish up here, we're going to be out of time. I'd just like to thank Leanne, my producer this week, for filling in here with me and helping me out. It's been a pleasure presenting. Fran is back next week to tell you, and to you, the listener, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We have to go. We're completely out of time.
Thank the Tipp team for everything they've done for the county, and best of luck on Sunday. And they can all hold their heads up high, including Liam Cahill, and they're heroes.
Great stuff. Thanks to the panel and listeners. Thanks for tuning in. From me, Stephen Gleeson. Bye for now.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Hook On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Hook On. See slatterysgarage.ie.